Spent the night at my boyfriend's house. I was 17 and spent a Friday night at my boyfriend's house. His parents are out. Okay, so the house is huge, and I bring a 2-liter of Coke for myself to drink. I wanted to leave it in the fridge, but he said no, his sister might drink it. We took it to his room. Do all the stuff ya know you do and go to sleep. I woke up before him and I want a drink, so I just opened it up and drink. It's mine and nobody else is going to be drinking it. Well, my boyfriend hears me gagging, trying to figure out what the duck is wrong with the Coke. He screams, "No, I pissed in it because I thought you were done with it, and I didn't want to go all the way to the bathroom." What? You did? What? I stick my whole hand in my mouth and throw up in his bed. I say oops, I just didn't want to go to the bathroom. I didn't ever see him again. My boyfriend's stepmom tried to heal me of my lactose intolerance. My boyfriend and I moved away from our hometown about 6 months ago. Unfortunately, we weren't able to go home for Christmas due to me having to work over the break. So, a few weeks ago I went back to our hometown solo to see my friends and family and collect Christmas gifts that weren't able to be shipped. I went over to his dad's and stepmom's house to pick up the loot and they invited me to stay for dinner. To preface, his family is extremely religious. Not just the prayer before meals and bedtime kind, but his stepmom genuinely thinks she is a prophet kind. So dinner is going well, we have a polite conversation, and we talk a lot about the move and how we're adjusting. After dinner, his stepmom offers some dessert. She says she picked up some pie and ice cream and starts to prepare the plates. I tell her, thank you, but I can only have the pie as I am lactose intolerant. His stepmom looks at me, slowly walks over, and says, "Dear, let me heal you." I was confused and for a second I thought she was joking. She then holds her hands up over me and says very casually, "I declare you healed," as if she's done this 1,000 times. She then goes on to explain that at some point in my family's history, there was a generational curse put on my family that has caused me to be lactose intolerant. Meanwhile, I'm just sitting there, eyes wide and nodding my head, obviously freaked the duck out. She once again raises her hands and says again, "I declare you healed." I had no idea how to respond. She then looks at me and asks me if I would like some ice cream. What am I supposed to say? If I say no, I'm pretty much denying that she is a prophet, and if I say yes, I'm going to have the shits for the next few hours. I was so stunned I just said yes. She then serves the dessert and watches me eat every last spoonful of ice cream. I thank them for dinner and get the hell out of there. In my hometown, there's an awesome karaoke spot that I go to every time I come back. I happened to have plans to go there after this visit. The whole time I was there I was running to the bathroom every 20 minutes and at one point I had to interrupt the song I was singing to run to the restroom. All in all, it's a hilarious story that I told everyone at the bar. I can't believe these people are going to be my in-laws. Edit, update. This woman is very religious, but she is also very rich. She got a bunch of money from her ex-husband in her last divorce settlement. So rich that she actually paid for my boyfriend's brother's entire honeymoon. She sent them on a week-long all-expense-paid trip to Cabo including plane tickets. So, I might let her think she's a prophet until after the wedding. Not going to lie, I want a free luxury honeymoon, and if eating lactose is the way to get there then I'll suck it up. Also, I live out of state, so I barely see them. My mom keeps hiding lemons in my room. My mom read about open lemons preventing cancer or something. So, she starts putting lemon halves in my room, on fancy glass dishes. I told her to stop, but she keeps going. This time, hiding them. Occasionally, I find strategically placed lemons in my closet or near my bed. The time I wore my brother's socks. Okay, so when I was in middle school, everyone wore those white Nike socks, and I wanted a pair so bad to go with my white shoes. Well, at the time, my brother wore Nike socks and had lots of them lying around his room. One particular afternoon, after me being completely oblivious and young, stumbled upon a pair of Nike socks under my brother's bed. They were, how do you say, yellowish and crunchy. I picked them up and smiled, and because I didn't know how to wash my clothes in the washer, rinsed the hard socks in the sink with dish soap. I'm sure you can guess where this is going. I dried them, even though they were still hard, and wore them to school. When I got home, my sister flipped out and started laughing at me. My sister kept saying I had sperm toes, and I had no idea what that meant. I looked at my brother's face and he turned bright red. I figured out only years later what happened. Yeah, I wore my brother's cum socks to 7th grade. Thought my husband was asking for a threesome. The background is that my husband and I have 2 children and I had to basically beg to get my first kid a sibling. My first is a big handful, and despite my husband wanting 2 to 3 kids when we met, he insisted that our first was already enough to handle. After a few years, he reluctantly agrees to only 1 more, vowing never to have more than 2 and praying to God it wasn't multiples. It wasn't. My husband has grown particularly attached to our second, but he still was set on the 2 we had. Around the time our second was 7 months old, we had a heavy lovemaking session, and afterward, during pillow talk, he said, "Can I just put something out there?" I said sure. He said, "Like really out there?" I hesitantly said yes again. He said, "I wouldn't be opposed to a third." I was a bit shocked, taken aback, as that is something I thought we both wouldn't do, but I was curious as to why he would want a threesome and with whom. I said male or female. He said, "Well, it's not up to us, I would prefer a boy since we already have 2 girls." I burst out laughing and ecstatic since I never thought he'd ever want a third kid and I've always wanted 3. TLDR. My husband said he wouldn't be opposed to a third and I thought he meant a threesome when he meant child. Worst smell ever. Thanks to a post I read today in Tifu about an incident in a sauna, a childhood memory was triggered that I'd tried to forget. But now that it's resurfaced, thought someone might find it funny by sharing my experience. My dad purchased a lifetime gym membership when I was about 11 years old, and he would take my older brother, by 2 years, and me with him. We would just do our own thing while he did his routine workout. Gave us a fair bit of time to ourselves and we had fun trying to bench press as much as we could. Well, my older brother was always pretty radical and would do random stuff that usually resulted in trouble, not just for him, but I was always roped into situations by default. So, on this occasion, we decided to go and check out the sauna before showering. Usually, there would be someone else in there if we went to use it, so we didn't stay in there very long. I hadn't really taken notice of how the sauna worked other than it was bloody hot in there until a week or so before this incident. Some guy had gotten up off the bench he was sitting on and poured water on the hot rocks to increase the steam and heat. Anyway, we went into the sauna, towels wrapped around us, and sat on the benches. It was just my brother and me in there, and we had not been in the sauna very long before my brother said he needed to urinate. I told him to go and use the toilet, but he said something along the lines of "Screw that, we only just got in here," and proceeded over to the hot rocks. I remember telling him, "You can't piss on that." I was worried he would get hurt more than anything. So, my brother, being my brother, started pissing on the rocks, and then we were laughing hysterically at the sound it was making as he relieved himself. As funny as it was, as soon as the steam version of his urine hit my nose and caught in my throat, I realized how bad this smelled. All I could think was having to get out of here now, and this is bad, very bad. We both had to get out of there, and we did. As soon as we could get a decent breath in, we started laughing again, but both agreed we had to get dressed quickly and get out of the changing room before Dad or anyone else came in. We did that and went and sat in the furthest corner of the gym from the changing rooms, waiting for the old man to finish his workout. We watched a couple of men go into the changing room, which cracked us up to no end knowing what they were walking into. Dad finished his workout and went to the changing room, but the absolute highlight was watching the manager spraying air freshener and entering the changing room to continue his battle with the rancid smell that was now penetrating most of the place. Our final laugh was on the way home in the car when Dad mentioned how bad it smelled in the changing room. As always with my brother, it was a mix of fun, disgust, and shitting myself. We were going to get in trouble. TLDR. Brother urinated on the sauna rocks and created chaos. Why we had to change our dog's name, true story. So, when I was growing up, we got 2 golden retrievers. The male's name was Samson, Sam for short. The female's name came from the people we bought her from and was Nella. One day my parents asked me to go out back and call the dogs to come inside because it was time for them to eat. I went out back and yelled at the top of my lungs in the middle of a large city, "Sam and Nella." We changed her name to Graceful Morning Sunshine, Gracie for short. She had the name Nella for about 6 months before anyone in our house decided to say their names that way. I almost caused a panic in the city after that though, 'cause all of our neighbors heard me. We actually had the police come to our house to see if there really was a salmonella outbreak. When we explained what happened to the cops, they just laughed. I was only 10 at the time, so I had no clue what was going on. Anyway, that's the story of why we changed our dog's name from Nella to Gracie. Police. Keep your skeeting to a minimum. Swear to God this is a true story. So, I was 17 driving around in a VW Jetta with literally no exhaust. It was cut off before the catalytic converter, so it was obnoxiously loud. I was driving through the tourist part of my town, speed limit of 15 miles per hour, and while I'm driving, a white suburban SUV sped past me and this bearded Mexican dude in the passenger seat is staring at me. Like a really confident badass gang member, intimidating kind of stare. Finally, they get a good distance ahead of me and he stops looking at me. So, I catch up to them as quietly as I could, and once I'm level with them, I dropped a gear and blew past them as loud I could, while simultaneously making eye contact with the confident Mexican dude and yelling "Skeet" at the top of my lungs. Right after passing him, I took a right on red, but the white Suburban crosses a solid white line into the turning lane and started to tail me. It was a pretty desolate back road I was on at this point, and the SUV started riding my ass. In my head, I was thinking they were gang members because of the Mexican passenger's confident swagger, but then the undercover SUV lit me up. That's when I realized that was the confidence of being in a car full of police officers. 4 officers surround my car, all wearing bulletproof vests, and one of them is holding an assault rifle. Sure enough, it was the confident Mexican. And who comes up to my window? You guessed it, confident Mexican. On his way to my window, he rubs the back window and stares at his fingers. Police. So, I'm definitely going to get you for failure to yield at the stoplight back there and obstruction of view. And he points at my air freshener. You can't have that there. And I'm not sure what you yelled at me back there. Me. Very timidly, I yelled "Skeet." Police. What? Me. I yelled "Skeet." He took my information back to the car and then another one of the police officers came up to my window. Police number 2. All right man, don't lie to us. Where is your crack? Me. What? No, I don't have any drugs in the car. Police number 2. I said don't lie to me, do you want to hand it up or do I need to search the car? Me. Officer, I seriously do not have any drugs. Then the confident Mexican cop came back from his car, and surprisingly I was glad to see him because he interrupts the other cop to give me back my papers. Police. All right man, we're just playing with you, you can go. But keep your skeeting to a minimum.
Like and subscribe for more ducking content.